Hello, my name is Leslie Crook, and I work as a manager of food entrepreneurship for Local First Arizona. I have over 2 decades of experience working in the food industry. I worked pretty much every position that you could in back of the house, and then later in my career, I specialized in baking and pastry. I had my own business for quite a while and have gone through and seen a lot of things in my days. And I love to share my experience and my expertise with food business owners that need some support. So today's presentation is going to be on growth plans, and scaling your business. We are going to discuss a few things today about what it means to grow versus scale your business. And we'll come up with some effective hiring strategies, how to scale your operations efficiently, financial planning for growth, building a strong company culture, and overcoming growth challenges. Let's get into it. Measured and sustained growth, planning for and succeeding in growth. If you fail to plan, you are planning to fail. To me, this means if you don't have a process in place, you are likely not going to be able to duplicate things without it. Processes and planning ahead are key in growing your business. So things that are foundational tools, tracking systems, things like tracking your sales and your expenses, taking time to understand your customer demographics and what your competitors are doing. These are all strategies you can use to grow wisely. So why does growth require strategy? This is a transition from the startup or launch phase of your business into something that we hope to be sustainable and held over many years to come. There are some pitfalls in growing too fast. If you're trying to do everything all at once, you are forgoing things like quality, integrity, consistency. You can also run into the problem of having a cash crunch. If you just don't have the money up front to continue scaling, or you have nothing saved to invest in your business initially, this is going to be a problem for your growth strategy. And you may need to reconsider some things. Other pitfalls of growing too fast can be burnout. If you're just doing too many things, that's not sustainable, or if your quality starts dipping, this is going to hugely impact your profits. Consistency is key. There are risks of growing too slow, on the other hand. Things like missed opportunities. If you aren't ready to take on wholesale buyers, or you're getting demand for more products, if you aren't able to meet that, then you allow this opportunity for other competitors to come in and swoop up that chance. And I'm going to show you kind of a visual growth chart, and we'll go through the different phases so you can see from the startup to scaling to a sustainable operation. So here you can see that this graph shows a slow progression with some plateaus along the way to that sustainable phase in phase 4. The phase 1, that launch phase, is really that first plateau where the woman in orange pants is standing. This phase, you're gaining traction. You're excited to make those first initial sales. And maybe these are your first public sales because you've been relying heavily on friends and family and you're not necessarily charging anything. So now we're getting out there, we're launching our product, we're sharing it with new customer base, and we're doing a little bit of trial and error, figuring out what makes sense, what flavors are popular, what markets and events are perfect to meet your customer demographic at, to make sales, things like that. You're starting out and you're just getting going. Phase 2, the incline here, this is your growth phase. This is now you've tapped into what events and what markets you want to be a part of. So you're making money. Your sales are starting to get predictable. You know about what you're going to pull in at each market. But in this growth phase, you're also spending money. You're spending money to show up at new locations. You are likely doing all the production. And to be at these multiple locations, you've had to increase your production and increase your inventory. So you're spending money, but you're making it too. This phase 3, this is the next flat plateau. somebody is sitting on this level. Phase three is also known as the constraint phase. This is where you've been performing at your farmers markets and events consistently. The sales are, they've been predictable, but they're not really increasing. You've kind of maxed out your sales given your capability of being at different events or market locations. At this phase three, this constraint phase, you have three options. The first one, you can be in denial about what you're doing, or maybe you just think this is great. You'll sit in this space where you're making these sales, nothing is growing anymore, and you just keep kind of chugging along. You can also retreat at this phase and go back to your growth phase. Maybe you're going to hone in on your menu to identify the things that sell consistently and the things that are in high demand. Maybe you need to hire some new employees to increase your capabilities. And this means you would go back to that growth phase where you're going to spend money to grow your business. There's also a piece in here where you can scale. If you are deciding that you are at that level and you are ready to make informed decisions to scale, this means you are changing your attitude and you're moving forward into this next phase of business ownership. And lastly, this last incline is phase four. This is scaling. So you're making changes, you're adapting to this new input, and you have systems that are in place for increased efficiency and sustainability. But let's talk about how you actually implement this in your business. I want to talk about the difference between growth and scaling. Growth, you're bringing in money while you're taking on costs. Like I said, you are potentially hiring employees, you are showing up at different events, so you have a much higher need for a larger inventory. You're moving to maybe a larger production space. Maybe you've maxed out where you've been at, so now you have to rent a kitchen, or you are working in a brick and mortar. That's going to cost you money, more money than what you probably were doing for production previously. And I already mentioned buying more inventory. You have to have the ingredients in place, the packaging, the labeling, the wherewithal to increase your production and sell to your customers. Now, scaling is a little bit differently because this is a phase where you're actually increasing your revenue without increasing your costs. This hinges upon you building systems that allow you to handle more volume and increase your efficiency. And this is also a stage where you are kind of transitioning from that owner operator stance to something a little bit different. And we'll get into that a little more detail. An example of growth would be a bakery that wants to increase sales and increase their presence around the valley. They decide to open up 3 new locations to meet that increased demand. So 3 new locations, lots of overhead involved, and lots of hiring that needs to happen. That is an example of growth. Now, if we're thinking about this same bakery, maybe they've built a process or worked with a developer to create an app that manages all of their deliveries. Now they've been able to triple their orders because they have a delivery system in place, and they're able to utilize the same kitchen they were working out of and the same people that they had hired to do the job. So you can see how this is increasing their efficiency and their volume in sales while not incurring more expenses. You're using what's already in place. So hiring, how do we get the right people on our team? We're going to talk through some strategies about when to hire, how you find the right person, and crafting that job description to get the right talent. How do you know when it's time to hire? One of the first key signs you're going to see is that there are just too many things for you to get done on your own. This is your business. You've been in every aspect of the business at this point. You feel like a superhero that you can take on everything. And in the beginning, that's fine, but there are definitely pitfalls when you take on too much because your quality might slip to workload. I said before, consistency is key. If a customer comes to you one week and buys a loaf of your $14 sourdough bread, and it's beautiful and fluffy. The flavor is great. The color, the texture, it's everything that they wanted, and it was a value for them spending $14 on this loaf. But if they come back the next week and now it's a smaller, it's denser loaf, the flavor's not the same, but the cost is the same at $14, they're likely not going to buy it. So consistency, the quality of your performance and your products really matters. So if those things start to slip because you have too much on your plate, this is probably a time when you need to hire some help. Maybe you're turning down business due to your capacity. People are calling to put in orders, but now you've got too much on your plate, so you're actually turning these opportunities down. So now this person is likely going to call one of your competitors and go somewhere else. So here's that missed opportunity where the competitor came in and took that business from you. Maybe you're spending too much time on routine tasks. You are spending more time grocery shopping for all the ingredients you need to produce. So now you've spent a few hours going to multiple stores to get all the things that you've wanted. This is not the best use of your time. Grocery shopping doesn't make you the money. The production and the end product getting sold does. So, in this example of a food truck owner, very popular, we see a lot of food trucks across the valley, and it's a lot of work that goes into it ahead of time, getting prepared ahead of time with all the food production, showing up at the event, putting on that customer service hat and selling. This might be a long day for you to be out. If after this 14-hour day of you slaving in your food truck and you still can't meet the demand of your customers, this is a great time to think about hiring somebody for your team. So let's talk about some hiring strategies that work, how to attract and retain talent. Write clear, values-based job descriptions. The values are the guiding principles that you want to instill in your business. And we'll get into some examples, and I'll show you an example job description shortly. You want to interview for both skills and cultural fit. The skills are the technical skills and the expertise somebody brings to the table that qualifies them for the job, but that cultural fit means whether they're going to fit in with things within the organization or not. So making sure that you have these values and things aligned in the job description will help understand if somebody's going to fit in with the vibe of the business. And there are some other tips that I can share with you on how to check that out. One tip that a lot of people don't take time to do is asking for and checking professional references. It's easy enough to ask for somebody, maybe even just 2 professional references from someone, but then actually call and verify those references. You can ask questions that confirm the time period, the dates that this person was employed, and some of the main responsibilities or tasks they had to perform. You can talk about their overall performance and work ethic. Did they show up on time? Did they complete tasks satisfactorily? You can ask things like, what are their greatest strengths? Or what could this employee improve on? How do they handle stressful situations or feedback? My best tip for the question to ask is, would you rehire this candidate if the opportunity arose? That's going to give you a lot of information that you can't necessarily glean from somebody's interview or their resume. This is somebody else's opinion of a person in a professional capacity previously. So taking the extra time to call and ask for this information will help you determine if that's the right person to hire or not. Another way to keep talented folks in your organization is to provide structured onboarding. Make sure everybody's got the tools and the resources they need, and make it consistent across how you hire people so that one person's not hearing something that another person didn't. Another way to increase retention and keep those same employees around is to highlight different growth opportunities. to give people more responsibilities and help them grow within the organization. It's a lot less expensive to move people up within your organization from your employee pool that's already working for you. You know how they perform on the job, they already know the culture of the business, and giving them this opportunity to grow professionally means that they'll likely stay with working for you longer. So let's talk about how to write a job description so that you can these values again, these guiding principles about professional conduct that you want to make sure are visible and prevalent in your organization. Here's an example of how you might want to hire a lead baker. And this whole reference is available on the website so you can see the entire job description and not just this small portion of it. But the values that I wanted to highlight were passion for quality and craft. So, knowing, of course, you're hiring somebody that needs to have the expertise and the skill to do the job in the first place. But now you want to find somebody that really cares about that quality, somebody that is willing to perform quality checks as needed and learn and strive to make consistent products. Maybe you want somebody that can show leadership and mentorship ability. So, one of the things you might be looking for is somebody that's got the initiative to teach new hires proper technique and share their experience that they've had, share those skills with other employees. Maybe one of your values is innovation and creativity. So you might want to offer somebody the opportunity here to develop seasonal menus, to use local in-season ingredients. It allows them to be more involved in the business by creating these recipes and using those creative skills that they have and bringing something new to the team. Accountability is another huge value that I would say a lot of people likely have in their organization when you take ownership for the things that you're doing. So, other than values that we want to see sprinkled throughout these job descriptions, we also want to highlight those technical skills. What are you actually looking for this person to come to the table with? There was this example under the leadership and mentorship section, somebody that knows the proper techniques for laminating doughs. That would be a technical skill that you want to make sure you call out in that job description so that person knows whether they have what it takes to work this position or not. And then there are those soft skills that are included in this job description too. Things like how you communicate, how you manage your time, how you deal with problem solving, things like that. So the technical skills are the expertise to actually do the job, and the soft skills are what this person takes on and how they influence this cultural fit within your organization. Other things that you want to have identified on your job description would be management and leadership duties, opportunities that might be available, like training or to lead quality control, or as I mentioned, developing those recipes. And of course, those operational duties that you need that person to be responsible for. Are they going to be responsible for calculating the inventory and doing the ordering on a weekly basis? Do they have to keep records of production or something else within the business? Do they have responsibilities where they have to verify certain processes or verify quality control levels? And then sanitation practices. I would hope that you all have sanitation practices and food safety a focus of your business, but actually putting that in there. And maybe you want to hire somebody specifically that has food protection manager certification. So you know that they've gone the extra step of actually having a class of 8 to 10 hours and a long involved test to get that food protection manager certification. That's a much more involved class and test and level of food safety certification than a food handler's card that you can obtain in about 30 minutes. So, if this is something that you want to be integral to your business, make sure that you're sprinkling these things in the job description. About scaling your operation, how you would go about this in terms of growth, the quality and finances to support the business, and how we make a strategy for that. So systems that support growth right away, inventory. Inventory management tools are very important to have. This is inventory is money on your shelves that you don't make until it's turned into food products for sale. So inventory like dry goods, including packaging materials, packaging and labels, or service items that you might have, or even catering equipment that you might have. Keeping track of all these on inventory, whether you use spreadsheets, whether you use different software or different tools that are available on the market to track all of this, knowing what you have in your business saves you time for when you're doing ordering or you have to shop for certain ingredients or you want to make sure that you have enough on hand because you can actually use an inventory to set par levels. Par levels are the minimum what you have to have on hand at all times. So this makes it a little bit easier for ordering purposes. If you have somebody that's just going down the inventory sheets and checking all the numbers of what you have, if you have that par column and there's a discrepancy, then you know right away, this is how much I have to order. So it saves time, saves some of those decision making. POS or point of sale system and how you track or deal with online ordering, whether you have an e-commerce platform or some kind of way to put in orders via your website, having a system in place to deal with this, whether this is sales at an event when it's happening or sales online that are on demand. How you are making sales and how you are tracking those sales, that would be a system that you need in place. This is more than just using Cash App on your phone or taking orders manually. Having a system and a piece of software that you use will save you a lot of time. You can also use a lot of these point of sale systems to create and generate reports for you over time so you can compare historical evidence to evidence today. You can also run these reports when it's time to file for your taxes. It makes it a little bit easier. And a lot of these systems now integrate directly into a program like QuickBooks, where you can track all of that stuff. So it's a lot less of your time that you're going to be spending doing administrative tasks if you have this system already in place. Another thing you could implement is scheduling software. When you get to the point where you have multiple employees that you have to manage and they might have different preferences about when they want to work, you can actually plug that into software and it'll come up with those times that they need to be there. And this could be based on when your events are happening or production levels. Having some kind of vendor management system is important so that you have preferred vendors that you know that you're going to reach out to, and maybe backup vendors if that one doesn't have something that you're trying to order at the time. Then you have a backup vendor in place so you know where you can go for these substitute items. Sometimes from vendor to vendor, the prices are a little bit different. So maybe one week you're ordering your produce from one place because they have a deal on red bell peppers and you need 20 cases of those. But then to have an option for something else that might be cost savings or maybe preferred that you like this meat vendor versus a different one. Having those things in place and part of a system will save you some time of having to figure it out and do the legwork and plug that in. And then, of course, keep contact information really handy so that when those orders are being made, you've got all the information you need right at your fingertips to make that happen. Another is delegating responsibilities to staff. First and foremost, we said when it was time to hire, that meant that we had too many tasks that we could do on our own. So now delegating those responsibilities is really important. Figure out what your employees have strengths and weaknesses in and try to match those with the right tasks, including tasks that might allow them to develop and grow within the organization. So, shifting your mindset. This is a part of scaling that often gets overlooked because a lot of times we come in as a small business owner, we do absolutely everything, and we feel like we have to have our hands in control of everything going forward. This is not a matter of you losing control of your business or anything. You just don't have to be responsible for every task that has to be done in the organization. So when you're in this first stage, like I said, you're doing everything. So your role, you're the operator, you're the technician, you're the planner, you're the salesperson, the administrator. You wear a lot of hats. And without you, your business doesn't go anywhere. That's a big responsibility. And you're thinking, your mind frame might be, if I want something done right, I'm going to do it myself because you don't have time to look at somebody else to do it, or the product's going to end up differently if you don't take that time to hire the right person and to train them appropriately. So, this structure, very, very owner centric, this business model revolves solely around you. And we want you to be able to shift to that next scenario, that next vision when you're building your team. And eventually, I want you to shift all the way to that CEO role so that you're looking at things from a higher level. You're making strategic moves within the organization. So that next stage, that owner role in the owner and team, like maybe thinking about that first hire for your business. Not only are they going to take things off your plate so you can get other tasks done and you can focus on sales and expanding in different areas, but this first hire might also be somebody that you target as being a lead or a supervisor and taking on some of these management roles that will happen day to day, including that training and working directly with those other employees. So now your owner mentality has changed because now you have a manager that is leading things within your operation. So you can focus on a lot of other things. And finally, we want you to hit that CEO stage so that you have this, you're connected back with those big 30,000-foot goals that you see yourself hitting within your business so that you can figure out strategically, how are you going to get there? How do you implement things? How do you meet and network with the right people to make this happen? And now you have this mentality as an investor. You're thinking, I want to franchise my operation or I want to open other locations. And now you can actually see how that might be able to happen because you've built this organization that is built on the right employees, the right team, that are all in alignment with your values and the cultural fit within your organization. And they're operating on systems and strategies, standard operating procedures that you have taken time to put into place so they don't have to think about what the next task is or how something needs to be accomplished. You've created this network for success within the organization. So, a little bit more on transitioning from owner to CEO. As I mentioned previously, that scaling phase really means that you have taken account of the things that are happening and you are able to think more forward focus. What do you want to see next? And you're adapting to these changes. You have these systems and now you're moving forward and you're scaling your operation. So, shifting your mindset really means that I said before, when you're hiring that first person, it means you're lightening your workload up and you're delegating those tasks. And you're delegating specific things that are operational tasks, the things that need focus right then and there to get the job, to get the orders done. And by doing this, it means your time is more focused on leading this team to the next phase. You're no longer doing the work, but you are building systems, setting a clear vision, and empowering your capable team to execute your strategy. It's the difference between working in your business to working on your business. So, standardizing systems, I've said this a couple times about the importance of putting a process in place. Rather than leaving all those processes and those thoughts you have about doing something in your head, I actually want you to document these and create SOPs, which are standard operating procedures, so that production doesn't stall. They don't have to find you to ask for the next steps, nor do you have to micromanage and check in with them and tell them what their next move is. You're more so paying attention to that consistency, and you're the person at the end making sure that everything was accomplished in the right order. These systems that I'm talking about specifically, like your recipes, they can't just live in your head. They have to be written down, and standardizing your recipes and making them available to your staff is really important. You could even create a standards binder where you have the standardized recipe that has from start to finish how it's supposed to be packaged and what it's supposed to look like at the very end result, right before it's purchased. You can include photos to make it easier so people visually understand what it's supposed to look like. And using these standards binder and using these systems help you inform your next decisions. So, building a management cadence, what does this mean? This is checking in with your employees, figuring out whether you need to have meetings on a weekly, monthly, or even quarterly basis. You're making sure all those values are coming through, the work is getting done, and those objectives are being met consistently. You're checking, this is also time to check in and make any changes if you need to. And then, of course, this transition from owner to CEO also means you can protect your strategic timeline. So you're making check ins on your goal projection and you're looking at things from a short and long term position. Looking at what you want to do, again, what that high level goal is within your business, and looking at how you might actually be able to get there because you've created this workplace that is productive and efficient. People are staying and really focusing on the duties of their job and maintaining those quality benchmarks. So, this transition again, this is your business is growing and your value shifts from doing the work to building these systems. You're developing people and you're leading this vision to allow your business to thrive without it solely depending on you. Now you are to this other level, and that's existing and it's molding and changing and scaling organically. Financial planning for growth, what that looks like. And we're talking about budgeting and cash flow. So, really important to have an idea of what your cash flow is in the beginning. You might have come in with a dollar amount that you can invest. You've likely invested a lot of money even before you've gotten to that launch phase. But doing this in a strategic, implemented manner avoids that cash crunch. It avoids going through that money, that those reserves that were set aside. It means going through those slower and budgeting for things like hiring and equipment and marketing. To know what you can afford, you will have already had to figure out your monthly operating expenses and these other key financial metrics. Budgeting for this have to have already done some of the legwork on making sure that you are charging the correct prices for your products. So you've done the food cost calculations, you've worked with vendors to get the best prices for your products, and you understand those profit margins and you know what your break even point is. So you have to have a clear understanding of what your expenses are, like what the overhead is each month, and how many sales or events that you need to meet in order to meet that cash that has to go out each month. You know those operating expenses. And then budgeting for equipment. Sometimes stuff breaks down, so having a budget in there to account for maintenance issues along upkeep is really smart to have that set aside ahead of time. Same with marketing. There will come a point when you have honed in on who your customer audience is that you will need to. That means you're paying for ads or you're paying for a company to come up with this marketing strategy for you. And then there are several options for funding. This is not an exhaustive list on here, but it does give you some ideas. Reinvesting profits and your personal savings. This is like self-funding. This is your money, the money that you've been able to create and generate with your business, and maybe money that you had aside, whether family and friends have donated to you. Those savings can definitely be part of the funding scheme, but they can't be all of it. Other options would be microloans, working with the Small Business Association for a low interest or zero interest loan. You could also finance your equipment. I don't think every operation needs brand new, beautiful commercial equipment. There are a lot of used equipment stores that will work with you, and in some scenarios, you can work out a financing plan to buy those big ovens or those big dollar amount items that you're not able to pay for outright. Other options are working with investors or partners, identifying those players that might want to give you money to grow, or they have a vested interest in you being in that space. And then grants and crowdfunding is an option. I've seen people launch really successful crowdfunding opportunities, and there are always different grant opportunities that are available. So, doing the research, reaching out to local chambers of commerce, local business associations. Sometimes there are other opportunities through different networks, business networks that might have grant opportunities. Think outside of the box for some of these things. There might be grants for green projects, being more eco-friendly, or starting a composting program. There are likely grants that could help support these different functions of your business. So doing a little bit of legwork will identify these possibilities for you and help to invest in certain areas of your business. So building a strong company culture. This is huge. You will spend money every time you hire an employee. So making sure that you have this strong company culture where people are challenged and supported means that they will likely stay longer and be loyal employees. This definitely matters. That's the difference between an environment that is healthy and set up for growth and one that will constantly spend money trying to replace employees because of high turnover. This culture is strongly influenced by the decision that you are making as the business owner, based on what behaviors you are rewarding, how you treat people and your employees every other day, the opportunities that you might give them for growth in the organization. Making sure that you are communicating these values clearly. You start in that job description where you're showing these values of this business that are important to you, and you're also clearly showing these values in the processes and the way that you treat your employees in this place. Expectations are impossible to meet if you never communicate them. So very clearly explaining what those expectations are, what those quality assurance benchmarks are, doesn't means that people don't have to guess. I also want you to be modeling that leadership and that accountability, showing people how you want things done. I personally would never ask an employee to do something that I wouldn't know or wouldn't be able to do myself. I want to be able to show them by example how I expect something to be done. Same with accountability. I highly encourage you that if something goes wrong, if there's a snafu or just it's an impossible day and things aren't turning out how you want them to, be accountable for it. Maybe you messed up. Take on that accountability right away and emulate to your employees how you would want them to react in the same scenario. I don't want you to create a culture where your employees are afraid to make mistakes. You empower them by showing you how you want them to respond if something gets messed up. And then the recognition for the things that do go well. I always praise loudly, openly to the employees so they understand my appreciation, and you can show them exactly what they did right, and you're showing all the other employees what they did right. And then creating different incentives. Again, allowing for that transparency of what they could grow to, different positions within the company, especially if it's something that they want to develop for themselves, and the different incentives that might be available for high sales months, creating sales goals, or having friendly competitions on how many products you're making by the dozens. It's values, your engagement with your employees, how you are retaining those employees. So again, you're not spending that money on rehiring for all those positions. This is what leads you to growth. And when you have that team in place, this is what allows you to scale your business. I can give you all these tips and pointers on how to scale incrementally and plan for this growth, but it doesn't always go perfectly, that there are bound to be lessons to be learned along the way. So, a common obstacle that you will face increased competition. Sure, if we find other people that are making similar products to us, you might not be so encouraged by that, worrying about somebody else making a similar product than you. But I want you to go back to why you started your business in the first place and why you chose the food or the cuisine that you're focused on for your business. These particular stories are unique to you, and leaning into that really sets you apart from others. You can be an expert in a few things versus trying to take all of it on. And this is what sets you apart from your competitors. So, operational inefficiencies. These can be a common obstacle with growth. If you are not verifying that your processes in place are working or that they're even being followed, this can create an inefficiency where things are just not getting done correctly and not to those quality standards that you want. There might be customer service gaps. So, empowering your employees on how to smooth over any customer service issues right away. And this can be emulated through whether they're watching you deal with this in real time of how you would deal with an unsatisfied customer or how you respond to reviews online or in social media. People are watching that. And it's not just you responding to the things that go poorly, it's also responding to the things that go really well. That engagement will definitely help your social media algorithm. And then it also shows people that you value your customers and you can empower your employees on how to deal with these scenarios right away. And then, of course, a growth challenge could be burnout and leadership strain. Burnout, again, created by too many tasks on your plate and just not the capability to do more than what is reasonable for one person. And then leadership strain. If you are not able to take yourself out of that production mentality and be that leader for people, you are, again, it's an example of you trying to take too many things on at once. So some of the strategies that you can use to overcome these things. So again, that increased competition, somebody else is new in town and they're making cold brew also. One way you can counter that is by streamlining your menu or what you offer. Focus on those things that are really particular and really special to you. Because again, we can be expert in a few things. We can't be an expert in everything. An example I can bring to you about that is we've all probably heard of or are familiar with Cheesecake Factory. When you go to Cheesecake Factory, you get a spiral bound book of their menu. There are so many things on their menu. And I will tell you the only way that they are consistent and keep that quality where it's at, so it's the same every time you go, is it's likely all being made in one location and then the products are shipped out to the different restaurant locations. So it's not that Cheesecake Factory is an expert in all of those items on their menu, because I know you can find a local spot that does better lettuce wraps or even a better slice of cheesecake that they do. Their strategy to deal with these operational insufficiencies, improve your training. Like I said, you have these systems that are in place, but making sure that the system works, it's being utilized, and it's verified that it works. This is a way to overcome that, making sure that you're giving people the tools that they need to do their job, again outlining those expectations really clearly and improving that training. Everybody learns a little bit differently. Some people are visual learners, some people are better on their own and just reading, some people need hands-on real-time experience to feel good about what they're doing and feel confident in what they're doing. So identifying what your employees need as far as what style they learn best in and allowing for, sure, one person might learn something and pick it up really quickly, where somebody else just needs a little bit longer. Understanding those differences and allowing for that different learning and different time frame will really help you that you've got the right team that is functioning well together. I mentioned about dealing with those customer service issues right away. and empowering your team on how to manage those. That's part of that culture within your business and how you address customer issues. One of the ways that you might be able to do this, aside from, validating their feelings on what didn't go well for them and addressing the good and the bad reviews, you could also come up with different customer loyalty programs or incentives that you can offer them to make sure that they stick with you. Asking them to write testimonials for your website or reviews to put out there, you want to capture all that information, and that can help you maintain that customer base. When it comes to those issues with burnout or leadership strain, sometimes what you need is actually peer support. You need somebody else that has gone through your struggles as business owners in the food industry. Sometimes that's all that you need. Somebody else that can understand and validate your feelings helps you so that you can continue and maybe you'll learn a few things along the way. How we're putting this all together. We're figuring out how to attract the right people in our organization. We're implementing the policies and processes that work best to keep our production going smoothly and making sure that we're meeting those quality benchmarks. And then we're adding those profits that now we're making. That you have moved from just an owner operator who does absolutely everything to that management, to that CEO focus. So now you're looking at this sustainable growth. You've got this whole system in place. So hiring strategically builds that capacity, allows that bakery, an example earlier, to increase their sales through this delivery app, but increasing the sales with the team that's already in place. Financial planning ahead of time funds sustainable expansion. Doing these things incrementally rather than getting out of the gate and spending way too much money initially to launch your business without thinking about what those future expenses are going to be, or without having those steady sales already in and that growing consumer demand. Spending that money too quickly up front could really deter you from continuing the business. And again, you're at that constraint phase on the graph where you're deciding whether you can address the issues at hand in your business, and maybe you need to step back to that growth phase and rethink about what's on your menu or who you have that's working with you, because maybe that's not leading you to the right long-term outcome. Or maybe you're deciding at that point, well, I am ready to scale and I've really determined what my menu is. I have focused on these 3, 4, 5, 6 things that I do really, really well, that are really unique to my business and what I'm an expert in. I've honed in on this menu and done all of the research and the work, and you found the right team to move forward with, and now you're just ready to scale. The culture that you build within that company is what really holds it all together. So some key takeaways that I hope that you walked away with is how to hire smart and scale by using systems. You can budget for growth. And if you have not ever taken a deep dive into your food cost calculations and thought about how you can price those things, check out our food cost and product pricing workshop, or even our wholesale plan workshop that can go into a deeper dive on food cost and product pricing. So you hired the right talented people and you have these processes in place so you're scaling, and you're able to, because you've stepped out of that owner operator who does everything in the organization, now you're able to look at things from that higher level to figure out where is that next move, and you can budget for it in advance. You're building that culture within the organization intentionally because those values that are woven through your business are there. The staff that you have is supported and growing professionally and able to support your increase of sales. You can also, once you have that team in place, the team and the processes and this whole system is working well, this allows you better to anticipate and respond to challenges that might come your way. And of course, I want you to be very aware of Local First Arizona small business support that we offer. Local First Arizona champions all Arizona-based businesses throughout this state, and we are here as a resource for you to utilize. There are a lot of talented people on my food team and beyond in the organization. That we've got such a great mix of employees within the organization that if I don't have an answer for something, the chances are I can find somebody else on the team or within the organization who can support you. And how you might be able to bring that together is by joining our business coalition. We run the largest business coalition of its kind in the US, and we believe that networking and creating this community of other business owners is what keeps the Arizona economy stable. And we want to increase that and increase these opportunities. Local businesses means local job creation. It means keeping money in those communities. And it means expanding and growing the opportunities that are available for generations to come. Here's some information on the annual dues based on the number of employees that you have within your organization. Some of the perks that go along with it, we host monthly mixers, various locales around the state. There's usually free refreshment, and there's always networking opportunities available. There is power in numbers, and sometimes opportunities come based on who you know. I have heard lots of stories about people going to our mixers, meeting somebody for the first time that now they're going to have a collaborative event with in the future, or others who walk away with wholesale contracts, or even others that are just learning about businesses for the first time and now they might want to utilize them as a vendor or invite them to special events. Your brand visibility gets a boost with your business coalition membership at Local First. There's lots of media exposure, huge vendor perks like our yearly signature event, Fall Fest, that happens in November every year downtown Margaret Hance Park. It attracts upwards of 15,000 people that are coming to that event on purpose to support and learn about local businesses. There are also lots of speaking opportunities. Fall Fest isn't the only event we do. We do a lot of things throughout the year, and sometimes we need experts like you and other business owners that can come out and speak to your experiences and share what you've learned along the way and increase that network. Because again, sometimes things come out of who you know, and it's the right place, right time that opens up opportunities. Along with our membership also comes advocacy power. We pay attention to all the policies that are coming down at a state and federal level and how they impact other business owners throughout the state. And we can keep you up to date on what those latest changes might be. And we're always watching that so that you can focus on your business. But we're always working hard for you to advocate for more opportunities for business owners and work hard to make sure that we even the playing field here. We support these local businesses. We believe in it and how it revitalizes economies and keeps people connected to their communities even more. And we want to support you when it comes to those big box retailers and other policies that might affect your employment pool or how you source things. So we're always paying attention to that, and we will share that information with you. And there are opportunities for you to get more involved. And these are just some of the perks that come along with membership in our business coalition. And I highly recommend you look into it further. If you would like to do that very thing, I encourage you to check out our website, of course. And if you would like to talk more to our team for membership, I've included the email address you can reach them at. Or if you have any food-based questions about your business or anything that you learned about in today's workshop, contact us at communitykitchens@localfirstaz.com. Thanks for joining today.